Greetings everybody, coming to you from my 2023 Toyota GR Corolla. Wanted to give an update on my impressions of this car now that I have put, well, almost 2,000 miles on it, just under. I'm trying to get rid of that vibration sound that's coming from a bottle I have in the door, so if I can't get rid of that, you can just ignore it. See, I've got cars coming from every possible direction here, so I have to wait before I can get back out on the road here. Here we go. So let's shift and just give a little quick acceleration burst. Anyway, I've owned a bunch of sporty cars throughout the years. I've had a few SRT-4 neons. I had a WRX. I had an Integra, not quite in the same class as those other ones. More recently, I had a Hyundai Elantra N. So I have a lot of familiarity with the sporty cars like that, and they all had their pros and cons. I've done some more recent videos about the Elantra N, but I've really come to a firm conclusion about this car that I wanted to share. So nothing has ever gotten the power down like this car has. I mean, I know the all-wheel drive system contributes to that, but it's actually a quite good all-wheel drive system. It gets the power down no matter what. I did a video about accelerating in the snow, and it was super impressive. Set my cruise here. So that's one thing, and then just the feeling, the steering feel, the driving feel. Now it does ride a little rough, but I've found that I've gotten used to that, and I don't even really notice it anymore. When I first started driving it, I mean, it was kind of rough, but I'm just so used to it, and it doesn't even factor in terms of the driving enjoyment. But I'd have to say that the biggest way to describe this car is I've owned over 100 cars, and I'm hard pressed to think of another car that I've felt more connected to the car and connected to the road, just with the feel, the size, the driving dynamic, all of that. It's just an amazing feeling of connection, driver to machine and machine to road, and it's just like you're at one with the car, and it's just it's something you just have to experience to fully understand. So if you're considering a car like this, I highly recommend you test drive one, if you can find one to test drive. Dealers typically don't let you do that, but a little tip for that is just tell them you just want to feel the seat and the clutch, and just drive it around the parking lot. That was actually my test drive on this one, was probably 2 minutes around the parking lot. Didn't even really get out of first gear, but just to get the feel for the clutch and the seat and everything. I think most dealers will let you do that, because you're not actually going to put any miles on it. And I'm glad the dealer I bought this from didn't let anybody test drive it, because the wrong driver can actually do a lot of damage to a manual transmission car in one quick test drive. So I can't remember the exact mileage that this had on it when I first got it. It was either 8 or 11, something like that. I mean, it was salesperson told me it just basically came off the truck and was only driven into the shop and out of the shop. And he actually had me drive to the gas station to get my free tank of fuel. Another argument for this particular car, there's really not a good history yet on what the resale value will be in the midterm or short term. Initially off the bat, it does take a bit of depreciation hits. I've just for fun been throwing it at a couple dealers to get a number, and the number is 37. So for a mine had every option, so it was just a hair under 40. But if you were to have gotten one with the only must-have option, I would say, is the limited slip differentials, because that just makes the car handle amazing in terms of, again, getting the power down. But I think long term, given the way that certain Japanese cars do over time, it's going to do incredibly well in terms of holding its value. I mean, case in point, I know this is obviously not a Honda. Before I say that, let's do a little uphill on-ramp. Got some cars coming. Kind of watch what's going on with the cars. Let's go ahead and get over here. I want to get to 6th gear. Anyways, yeah, so I know this is not a Honda, but if you take a look at the Civic Type R as a comparable type of car example, you know, so not necessarily limited production, but low production, because I think they sold, I don't know, maybe 6,000 of these the first year, the 2023 model year. I don't know what those numbers are for the Type R, but yeah, I'm guessing pretty similar. So if you look at 2017 Type R's, it's 2024 now, with like 50,000 miles on them, they're still selling right at around sticker. Now I'm sure part of that is because they have since added like 10 grand to the MSRP of that car from 2017 to 2024, so I'm sure that plays into it as well. I don't know what's going to happen with the pricing of the GR Corolla. I know to get basically the equivalent car that I have now would be like $2,000 more for a 2024 compared to mine, and the exact options and trim excuse me, you can't get on the core model for 2024. You have to get up to the premium. Now, one thing I also would recommend avoiding is the JBL stereo. It is literally one of the worst stereos I've ever heard in a car. The worst part about it is the treble. It's like somebody got in there, even when the settings are all flat, and just cranked up the treble to like 35. Even if you turn it all the way down, it is still very harsh. Yeah, so I seriously don't think I've ever heard a worse stereo system. I don't even ever listen to it. One other minor nit is when I'm on Apple CarPlay and I'm talking to somebody on the phone through that, it keeps dropping, like cutting out as if it's a bad signal, even though it's not. It like my person I was talking to was complaining about that, so then I switched to my headset and then it was fine after that. Yeah, just very, very minor nits. Like completely insignificant compared to the overall awesomeness of this car. You know, with me being in and out of cars all the time, I had originally planned to just buy this so I could experience it for a little while, but it's really grown on me to the point where I think even if I don't drive it regularly, I'll probably just tuck it away in storage and hold on to it and just drive it once in a while. Because I've really not experienced anything quite like this. The small size, all the stuff they do with the body of this car. If you're not familiar with that, look that up. What they do with the GR Corolla versus the base Corolla, it's pretty cool. This car, I'm not going to say it's hand built, but it has way more involvement by hand than the regular Corolla does. A lot of things they do differently, and I believe this is built in the same plant where they built, what was it, the Lexus LFA? I could be wrong on that. Quote, correct me if I'm wrong. I actually don't remember right now. But it's a very special car, and I would highly recommend one of these. Now, I will say I've never driven a Civic Type R. I've sat in them, but knowing how front-wheel drive cars get a lot of power down, the biggest problem I've had with my front-wheel drive cars getting power down is like if you nail it in first gear, there's wheel hop. I don't know if the Civic Type R does that or not. And I've also found pretty much every Honda 6-speed I've ever driven. I did have a Civic Si. I had a Civic Si. I had a Civic LX. Newer cars, like past 5 years. They all have transmission issues, whether it be locking you out of first gear or gear grinds. Civic Si gear grinds are a very well-known problem, even though there's fanboys out there that deny it, even though there's thousands of people on forums reporting that issue. I will say with the Elantra, and I never had any transmission shifting issues with this car. Never had any transmission shifting issues. In fact, it's always just been great. Clutch feel, engagement point, feel of the shifter. This one came with one of the options was the upgraded shifter knob. It's actually pretty slick. It actually looks pretty expensive. I did do a video where I showed that, I think, if you want to check that out. I didn't even know that was an option. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, that's about it. And of course, absolutely no problems with the car, like mechanical, electrical, anything like that. This is the car that just gives the sense it'll run forever. I've done a little bit of research about how this engine is put together. It is built to last. I'm never going to modify this car, but the engine is actually built to withstand a lot more boost than what you get factory stock. So, I mean, I think this thing will just run forever. Now, as far as maintenance goes, I do plan on following the book. I typically like to stretch oil change intervals, especially when I'm doing a lot of highway driving, but I'm not going to do that on this car. I'm actually going to follow the book every 5,000 miles. I know Toyotas have had issues with sludge in the engine, so I don't want to take a chance on that. And then also, just given the high performance nature of this car, I think it's going to be hard on the oil, and I want to just keep that major maintenance thing every 20,000 miles. You have to change the rear differential oil and the front transfer case oil. Well, I should just say the transfer case oil. They require 2 different oils. Technically that is covered by the Toyota Care, but I wouldn't necessarily trust the dealer to put the right oil or the right differential slash transfer case oil in the car. So those are jobs I'm going to do myself once I hit 20,000 miles. Maybe a while before I hit 20,000 miles, although, I mean, given that I've only had this car a little over 2 months and I'm pushing 2,000 miles, I mean, at that rate, it would only be a couple years. But I've got a couple other cars on the way in that I'm probably going to drive more and probably tuck this away and not drive it as much. So, 20 years from now, this car could have 10, 15, 20,000 miles on it. And, it'd be something that's really worth something. Especially original owner and full service history and all that. One of these days it will be for sale, but it's going to be a while. Okay, that's it. Have a great day, everyone.